Hello and welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors PrecisionHydration.com. Personalize your hydration strategy today at PrecisionHydration.com with electrolytes in different strengths that match how you sweat. You can try free box or tube of pH worth up to $9.99 using the code OxygenAddict. All right, everybody, welcome to the show. I've got a fantastic Christmas edition for you today. There's been no racing going on recently this week or next week, and so I've put together a couple of longer than usual interviews for you. First up, this week, I've got an interview with a young man called Talbot Cox, who a lot of you will know. Some of you don't think you know, but you probably do if you've been watching videos on YouTube. Talbot is a photographer and videographer. He's responsible for a series of really cool videos from out in Kona. He's done lots of interviews and lots of really cool stuff with people riding and running and swimming. And he's also responsible for the YouTube channels of Lionel Sanders, Tim and Rinny, and Gwen Jorgensen. So he spends his time flying around between them. And between those guys and between the other people he interviewed out in Kona, I figured that Talbot would have some interesting stories and some inside scoop for us from some of the best athletes in the world. And I was right. It's a killer interview. I think you're really going to enjoy listening to it. So hang around and check that out later on today. All right, so before we kick off today, a bit of news to cover off for you. The first thing that I've seen is both Anne Haug and Jan Frodeno have been confirmed to race Challenge Roth next summer, which leaves us with the interesting question of who's going to rock up and race them, firstly, but secondly, where are they going to go and validate their Kona slots? So it seems to preclude the idea of them racing at Ironman Germany. So where else are they going to go and race? That would be the obvious one for them. So massive scoop for the organisers over at Challenge Roth. I'm super excited to see how fast the pair of them can go there, especially Jan after he turned out 7:35 there last time, or in his previous record there anyway. So will he be able to go as fast as that? Is a 7:30 on the cards? So I'll keep you updated with more news as I get that for you. Next thing on that was on Twitter this week. Interestingly, both Jan and Sebi Kienle have published the records and the data of their blood tests and the drug tests that they've taken in and out of competition over the past year. And it's a really interesting thread, this. If you go and find it on Twitter, there's a chap called Uli Flume, who was basically trying to engage professional triathletes in conversations around this. And Jan, to his credit, has really answered, and there's some really interesting back and forths go on amongst these threads. And it culminates in Jan and then Sebi publishing the records of where they've been drug tested. So I think each of them had 16 or 18 in competition tests last year, mainly between, I think it was April and October time, or April and November. So that's an interesting sort of thing that's come out of it as well. There's still a 4 or 5 month period there where it looks like these guys certainly haven't been tested. So it's a big topic for conversation on social media at the moment, this idea of how much testing actually goes on in the pro peloton. Are there suspicions that people are coming over from, we know there's athletes come over from pro cycling, some of whom who've been suspended or, been banned from cycling and get to move over to triathlon. So it's a great step that these people are starting to publish their blood test data and we get to know a little bit more about it. So yeah, my advice would be to keep an eye on that on Twitter and to read the various things that are getting posted. Jan in particular, I've got a huge amount of respect for, because I've said before, in my opinion, I think he's arguably one of the greatest triathletes of all time, if not the greatest of all time. But he's also willing to engage with people and answer questions that it would be easy for him to just pretend he hasn't seen or ignore. So hats off to him. I've got a lot of respect, and I really hope to be able to bring you an interview with him in the new year. Last bit of news here that I've seen is Super League Triathlon have announced the final one of 5 in their qualifying series for next year. So it is coming to America. It's going to be the stateside showdown in Tempe, Arizona. This is going to take place on the 22nd to the 24th of May. So we've now got 5 qualifiers for the Super League main series. We've got Bali, Indonesia, and Salinas, Ecuador in April. We've got Tempe, Arizona, and Poznan, Poland. Arizona's in May, Poland's in June, and Ottawa, Canada is in July time. So there's age group races, all of these ones for people to take part in. So if you're local to Tempe, Arizona, I'd highly recommend getting down and having a go at some of those races. They are really, really super fun, something completely different. And it'll be interesting. It's got a reputation as being super flat around Tempe as well. So usually Super League have got some kind of nasty hill in the course there to really break the ride and the run and the pack up. But looks like this one will be a fast crit type race. So something again slightly different. Opportunities for people to win golden tickets there into the main event. And it's where athletes like Michael Arashita picked up his golden ticket last year. You'll remember that he was famous in Malta. He was desperate to make the cutoff at the end of one of the runs and ran straight through the transition and dived in with his shoes on. So he's open and says, my career was changed. I was going to quit triathlon because I couldn't make a living from it. I was going to go back to school, and going on to get a golden ticket for Super League was the thing that's basically allowed him to continue his professional career. So great moves being made by Super League Tri. Super exciting racing. For those of you listening in America, if you're in the Arizona area and you get a chance to go over to Tempe to watch it in the flesh, highly, highly recommended. Right then, guys, before we go into today's interview of the week, I'm going to give a shout out to our sponsors, personalised.com. In the cold, you'll be training indoors a lot of the time. It's been nasty weather over here in the UK recently. And so if you're on the turbo trainer, if you're on the treadmill, you need to take care of those electrolytes and make sure you're replacing what you're losing. Even if you've got a fan blowing over you on a treadmill or on a trainer, you're going to be losing a larger volume of sweat than you usually would be outdoors when you're running or riding, just because there isn't that ambient airflow going over you. And as we know, if we haven't got the ambient airflow, the sweat can't evaporate, it can't take heat away with it, and your body needs to get rid of that water. It needs lots more water to get rid of if it's not evaporating, and that means it's going to lose a lot more electrolytes and sodium, so you've got to replace it. If you've not taken the free sweat test yet, get over to precisionhydration.com. That'll give you a really good lead as to whether you're a very salty or very heavy sweater like I am, and if that's the case, what you need to do is simply order yourself some Precision Hydration electrolyte salts in the strength that match how you sweat. So they've got everything available from 250 milligrams all the way through to 1500 milligrams. I'm a 1500 milligram guy, and it really makes a difference for me. If I'm on the turbo these days and I haven't got pH in my bottle, I will cramp before the end of a session. So it's as important to me as putting my bike shoes on, literally. Can't recommend them highly enough. And they are a super cool company as well. Really, really nice team behind them there. And maybe if you want as well, if you're after a new bobble hat, I saw they were advertising them on Twitter this week as well. So get yourself a nice Christmas bobble hat if you're into brightly coloured bobble hats. All right, interview of the week this week then is with Talbot Cox. Talbot Cox, welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. It's really great to have you on, man. How are you doing today?
Couldn't be better. It's going to be hard to feel some shoes like Cam Worth and Lucy Charles, but I'll do my best.
Well, I figured, who's going to have the inside track on all the inside stories from Kona? It's going to be Talbot. He's interviewed everyone. He's filmed everybody. Let's get the guy on the show. And first up, if any of our listeners don't know who you are, if they haven't seen your YouTube videos, if they haven't seen your photographs, even your T-shirts and stuff, I wanted them to have a chance to to open up your world to them, because I think you've put out the best content from Kona, bar none, over the past few years. And the access you've given us to the pro athletes with your work with Tim and Rinny, with Lionel, with Gwen Jorgensen is absolutely brilliant, mate. So it's great to have a chance to get you on the show and have a chat with you more than anything.
Thanks, Rob. It's a passion of mine. It's something that growing up, I think I've said this 100 times. I was the kid who would get up and I would sit on the couch and I would watch Lance Armstrong ride down the Champs-Élysées, and Nike would sell that Team Discovery jersey, and I would buy the jersey and I'd buy a yellow helmet. And the second they finished the stage that day, I'd jump on my bike and ride as fast as I can down the street. And it's something that I've always had such a passion for, is just a deeper inside look. And starting with photographers years ago, like Litz Cruz and all these people, when they would give an inside look at something that I could never get enough of. I mean, every behind the scenes video on Team Discovery or Lance Armstrong, or doesn't matter if it was football or gridiron, no matter what it was, I always loved that kind of behind the scenes look, and kind of my career path that I'm sure we'll get into later on led me to that. And so the goal at the end of every episode or YouTube show or interview I do is I just want to give everyone what I would want myself, almost selfishly, because I'm such a fan of the sport, just kind of like everyone else. And so I know that if I would enjoy this, then hopefully someone else out there would.
Well, the access that you've got to pro tour athletes is fantastic. I think, has it been the last 3 years, maybe more even, that you've done the Kona Series, where you've managed to follow various pros around, you've filmed them training, you've filmed them on race day, you've seen them at the best when they're training well, you've seen them when they've won races or podiums, and you've seen things haven't gone well or they've fallen apart and at the lowest moment. So your videos managed to cover, it seems like, all the range of emotions that you get in a really good behind the scenes documentary, but compressed into like a 10 or 15 minute little film.
Yeah, it all started about 3 years ago, kind of just like what you had said. It was a whirlwind of events. I basically pursued a career in triathlon when I was a junior athlete, and it was more in the ITU kind of realm. And basically, at the end of the day, I wasn't a good swimmer. And I loved to push myself, and I loved working out, but I had more of a passion for creating art. And so obviously, triathlon wasn't my thing. So I didn't want to live that $10,000 a year spandex dream, and I couldn't come out of the water quick enough to even do that. So I kind of bend and twisted. I started my own kind of youth elite triathlon team and coached that for a few years. And then it ended up eventually at a software development school in Boulder, Colorado, which I started dating an athlete by the name of Ellie Salthouse. And we became real good friends, and I would travel to her races, and I just wanted to make myself useful. I felt like that if I was going to be there, I wanted to do more than yell a split or give someone a high five. And so I picked up a camera and just started shooting pictures. And that was in the spring. And in the fall, a good old friend of mine, Ivan O'Gorman, who does bike fits in Boulder, hooked me up with a job with Hot Shot, which is like I don't know if people remember this, like the anti-cramping thing. And basically there I was on the race that I had dreamed my entire life about. And I dreamed of winning, and it was, I couldn't even believe it. It was just such a whirlwind of events, and I didn't even know how to operate a camera. And yet I'm there on behalf of Hot Shot as their official photographer for the Ironman World Championships. And I'm like, wow, I better figure out how to use this camera so I can, I guess you'd say, fake it till you make it. But yeah, I mean, that's just basically how, in a short story, how I got to that point. And it was just kind of a whirlwind from there for the last 3 years. It's just been an incredible journey, incredible ride. So was that 2017 when you did that gig? I think that was, 2016. And okay. I had never recorded any video at that point. I took photos, and I was just kind of like, wow. And I definitely wanted to go back. And I got like a gist of it, and I loved it, but I definitely wanted to go back. But 2017 was when the videos and the official Kona Series started. So what would be, all right, I'm going to put you on the spot. What would be your favorite story from Kona this year, 2019? What's the favorite story that you think you saw and put to video? Oh gosh. I mean, it's hard to say that, because you get there and at the end of the day, you don't know what you're doing, so much, and you're capturing so much, and you're getting no sleep. And you're almost a zombie when it comes to race week. But I think the greatest story out of all of it, which was a really big eye opener to myself as well. I always joke around. I always tell people that if I was ever a professional triathlete in my second life, I'd be the best freaking triathlete on earth. Because I've seen all these athletes, and I've seen what it takes and stuff. And so, I mean, I think the only thing that I can really point back to is Tim O'Donnell, because I shot his entire journey. I mean, I was there in March when the bike crash happened in Australia, when he was fit as a whistle. And I was there through the entire struggle of him trying to even qualify for this stupid race. And it was like sick here, dropping out here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, you are like, you need to retire. Like you're old, dude. You're old. You're almost 40. And to see him nearly qualify. I mean, we're at Boulder. Britt McMahon's running him down, and it's just like you're screaming for Tim to get the freaking slot so he doesn't have to do another Ironman. And then he gets sick after that, and then he breaks his ankle, and then he gets all the way to that starting line, and you're like, wow, Tim, good luck. I mean, I hope you can get through this race, but there's some strong weapons out here, and it's going to be Jan or Alistair or Patrick or Sebi or someone like that. And then to see what he did on race day was just, it's like a miracle. I mean, the day couldn't have played out better for Tim. So I think that would probably be by far just the coolest story that I got to take part of.
His story was really quite remarkable, wasn't it? When you consider how close to Kona he wasn't even running still, to be able to go out there and perform as he did. And I think I'm right in saying he was a shade under 8 hours as well, wasn't he, on crossing the finish line?
Yeah, it was a very good testament to myself, especially seeing all those other athletes. And some people asked me what my podium was going into the race, and I had Jan winning like by 1.5 miles. And then I think I had Sebi in second place. And then I think my third place, I might have had like McNamee or Lang. And so it's betting on Tim to go top 10 at that race. I mean, it was a testament to one thing, watching Lionel train for this race and not knocking Lionel at all. And he'll tell you the same exact thing right now, is that I would go spend a week with Lionel in Tucson, and then I'd go spend a week with Tim and Rinny. And I look at Tim and I'm like, dude, you're not even training hard. Like, I'm watching you. You're not even training hard. You don't have what it takes anymore. And then I look at someone like Lionel, and the guy is a monster. And I'm like, holy crap, this guy's insane. And I knew that he was a bit overtrained going into Kona. And of course, that's never my say to say anything to the athletes. And this is something we've discussed and all that after the race. And so I knew he was going to be a little bit fried going into Kona. But to see that, it taught me one thing, that these professional athletes, and even if professional athletes are listening, and also your elite age group athletes, it's, you can train smarter, not harder. The smartest athlete on the day is going to win. And I think the biggest testament you can see is Tim O'Donnell, is every single thing that him and Julie Dibbins sat down and worked out a master plan. And you do this and this and this and this. I mean, I was with Tim in Kansas 3 weeks before the Ironman World Championship, and Tim hadn't ran in 3 weeks. I mean, and Tim didn't do his first run until 2 weeks before the Ironman World Championship. And I mean, he gets second place and arguably the greatest field ever in Kona. And so if you're out there and you're listening to this, listen to your coaches and don't overtrain yourself. Don't overwork yourself. Don't overcook yourself. They have a greater plan for you when they write down a workout, no matter what it is. If you trust in their process, they're going to get you to the start line at the best shape you can be possible. And even if it's your A race, it's kind of like a perfect example with Tim. I mean, he trusted in Julie Dibbins to get him to where he needed to be on that race day. And so it's pretty incredible to see that.
It really was. As we said, it was an amazing performance from him. And I think it was one of your videos watching earlier today. He was saying he had real confidence in his run. And he says something like, I didn't really have any reason to have confidence in my run, but I felt really confident in my run. And he looks great when he's running, doesn't he? Considering that, as you said, he hadn't run 3 weeks out from the race. Mm-hmm. He hadn't run for 3 weeks at all.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I mean, he did spend a lot of time running in the water, a lot of time in the Ultra G. I mean, I don't even know how many times I sat there on a chair inside of the KU Center or in Boulder when he's water running on the side of the pool. And it's definitely boring for someone like me. You can't get much action footage around it, but for someone like him, that's what it does. I mean, it's sitting there going back and forth in that pool a million times and spending hours and hours and hours standing still. I don't think there's anything that could build your confidence more.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. Now let's talk a little bit about Lionel then, because Lionel has been a long-time favorite of the listeners of the show. We had him on a couple of times back in the early days. And in fact, actually, here's an interesting story. The first time you came across my radar was when one of the athletes that I coach, Johnny, bought the famous No Limits poster that you published, and he's got a big fancy huge pain cave that he trains in, and he's got that huge No Limits poster that you sell with Lionel running on the Queen K on it. So tell us a little bit about the training that you've seen Lionel do, because he's renowned for training himself absolutely to the edge of death, isn't he?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I mean, Lionel even said it himself, and I think a documentary he did called Chasing the Lion. He said he's like a horse. Like, he can physically push his body so hard that he thinks he could kill himself. Like, and that's what a horse can do. And so he is someone who is someone that I've looked up to. He's been such an interesting character. I mean, from the first time I ever saw him when I was in St. George, and all these athletes walk in and they have their podium shirts on and all that, and he walks in and flip flops and some khaki shorts and a plain white t-shirt. Like, he's never really cared. The only thing that Lionel cares about is race day. And sometimes it's been pretty incredible, is long story short, to start working with him. It's like you have someone like me who's more of an entrepreneur, content creator. And of course he sees value in me, and I'm the person who's like, oh, we can make an extra $1 doing this. We can make an extra $1 doing this. Oh, I think that you shouldn't sign that sponsor because you could probably wait out more like this. And at the end of the day, if Lionel could not have one sponsor and never do one thing for Instagram or YouTube or anything, if he could just race, he would do it, because there's nothing that guy loves more than to just race. It's the only thing he cares about. And so I think that it's a testament to, he loves to train and race, and he just watching him train in his sessions and all that. And you're just like mind blown by it. And of course, last year was kind of his rough year. I mean, he had his great year with David Tilbury Davis, and his lead up in 17, I think it was, to his second place. And then, it's kind of disastrous of a year in 19. And then of course the injury this year. And so it was cool to see that he's back with a coach now to kind of pull him back a little bit more, and kind of like what you just discussed with Tim O'Donnell, to tame him a bit more and train smarter. So yeah, he is by far, he reminds me, there's a lot of similarity between him, and no offense against Tim, if you ever listen to this, Tim, Rinny and Gwen, they are like, all three of those. I mean, I've never seen them more just want to hurt and want to hurt alone. It's very incredible to see those athletes. And once you watch someone like those athletes work out, you can understand why they are the best in the world.
How often or how much time do you get to spend with Lionel during a standard season?
You know, I'm usually with him about a week a month. Is usually what it is. And I've become really close with him and Aaron, and Chewy, their dog, of course. And then also their family as well. I mean, they're incredible people. They've taken me in, just like, Gwen and Pat have as well. And as well as Tim and Rinny. I usually spend about a week with each of my clients. So it's usually like I'm with them for 4 to 5 days. We capture all the content we need during that time, and then I'll fly to the next one. So wherever they're at, I will just travel to where they're at. If they race, then I've traveled to a race. And so, yeah, it's usually in that small amount of time. So you get to spend a lot of getting to know people, because I don't stay in hotels. I stay actually with them. And kind of like what I was telling someone the other day, it takes a special person to really get involved in their life. And I'm just very grateful for all my clients, and then not only that, I think that everyone who watches them should be grateful that they let someone like myself with a camera come into their personal bubble when times get hard, when times are rough, when money is rough, when sponsors are rough, when even their marriage is rough. I mean, it is a hard place to let someone come into the camera. And I've been very, very grateful for them letting me come in and kind of really get involved in their lives.
It's a real position of trust they're placing you in, isn't it? If you're effectively sort of living with them and documenting their entire life, not just the training.
Yeah, you know, it really is. It's pretty incredible. And then also, like, a lot of the stuff that is going on behind the scenes, because there's a lot of mind games, especially in triathlon. And then also things that athletes do that not like in a bad way, but just kind of like secrets that they don't want other people to know about. I mean, Tim did not want his competitors to know that he was water running. He did not want them to know that he got that foot injury. And after a lot of discussion with Julie Dibbins and stuff, I mean, Tim hid it for a really long time. And then after a lot of discussion with Julie Dibbins, she's like, I think it's good that we let everyone know, because I think it ultimately led to the point where Julie was like, if we're able to get you on a good enough position on the bike, these athletes going to look at you and be like, well, Tim's been water running. We'll let him ride with us. We don't care about him, which ultimately led to where Tim got second place in the race. And so there's a lot of things that, whether it's velodrome testing or testing, like, but your breathing and all that, and just different little like prototypes that athletes do. With another athlete I work with, they do a lot of this power crank. And so they just do secret things that they don't want their competitors to know about. And you can't discuss that with, other clients, or if that makes any sense. It's kind of like, it's something that you just don't do.
Yeah, it's almost like there's some of the content that you can put out to the public, and some of it, like, where the bodies are buried, man. Where the Ironman bodies are buried. There's all kinds of secrets floating out there. You have to keep it away for a special edition later in the future, I suppose, eh?
Yeah, I guess so. And a lot of it too, we capture, and so they don't, like, of course they're open book. They've never told me to not record something. But it's kind of cool because we want to like story tell, like Lionel's had some like pretty deep, heavy rants about drugs and how he thinks like people still dope. And there's something that we can't release, but we plan to like release sometime like in the future, in like a future documentary, as well as like, Tim announced it, so he can't get too mad at me. But one of Tim's secret things that he does too, that he never really wants to put on his videos, is he sits in one of those pressure chambers that really pushes the oxygen back into your body. They got one at their house, and he sees that as a massive impact on his training that really, really helps him. And it's something they've just been like, yeah, let's just leave out of the videos, because I just don't want. I mean, if you can get that extra second per mile, then you want that, you know what I mean? And so it's kind of like, I've recorded a bunch of footage of that. And so it's going to be really cool one day to put a documentary together of all these athletes and hand off this footage to a videographer and let them just like see the whole realm of what truly goes inside of being a professional athlete and winning a championship race.
That's really interesting, isn't it? That there's these little things, well, not little things going on, but things that could make a little difference. And we are really only looking for a very tiny difference between finishing on the podium and being nowhere essentially on race day. And I suppose you're in a tricky position in a way, in that you want to tell the best story you can in the best way you can. But in order to get the best out of the athlete, they've got to have some secrets that other people don't know about. There must be a really difficult line to walk.
Yeah, it is and it isn't. And a lot of it too is just times like you can't have your camera rolling the entire time, just because I don't want to go through the footage. But then there's sometimes it's pretty incredible that like you just want to capture things, because it's like these athletes will bury themselves in their workout. They'll do every single thing they can to get that extra mile. And then I remember Tim had like the flu one time. And it's incredible because someone like me, or I'm an American, so people probably might laugh at this, but if I'm sick and I have the flu, I don't care what the hell you give me. If it's going to make me feel better, then give it to me, because I'm going to take it.
Yep. I'm right with you.
So anyone,
give me all the drugs. I want to be better again.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone who's like a natural remedy person is like, oh no, don't do that. But these athletes, it's so funny, because if it is anything, it doesn't matter what it is that they're going to put into their body, they are the most anal people on earth. Like Tim and Rinny are people that they actually won't even eat meat unless they know exactly where it came from.
Wow. Really?
And so like one time, Tim, there's this Mucinex. I don't know if people on here know like what that is. It's basically I don't know. I'm not really for sure. Basically, if you have congestion in your chest and you're coughing up junk, then you take that. And I take it like anytime I get like bronchitis or anything. But I'm like, oh, Tim, here, I have some Mucinex, because he has all this junk in his throat. And I have never in a million years, whatever, like looked this up. And he's like, oh, no, I can't take that. And I'm like, well, just look it up. And he like looks at anything they take, they go look up on this app. And it tells you you've allowed to take it on. And he's like, yeah. So see, that's not allowed in competition. And I'm like, but it is allowed outside of competition. And I'm like, well, then you can take it. You're not competing in like the next couple of months. And he's like, oh no, buddy, I don't even, anything that if it's not even allowed in competition, why even take it now? I mean, it's obviously something that is an illegal drug, that there's something in that and that I don't need that in my body. And it's kind of like in those moments, you wish you were recording for the people out there that do have secrets and they do drugs and things like that. It's like that. I'm like, dang it, why wasn't I recording right there?
Yeah.
That would have been such a good thing to record. And so, yeah, it's pretty crazy to see how paranoid these athletes are. I mean, like even Lionel like hates like anything that if you're taking something to enhance your performance, whether it's cream or anything, Lionel is completely against. Like even like the beet juice pills. Like Lionel just like laughs at that. He's like, if you're needing to go to that extra level and your urine's going to be red and you're needing to take something to help your performance, then you've already defeated yourself in your mind if you don't even believe in yourself.
That's really interesting to me because obviously Lionel in particular takes a lot of flack on the internet forums because his rise to the top of the sport was so fast. And I suppose it's perhaps natural in this sort of slightly cynical age that we live in, but people sort of say, look, this guy came from a background of addiction. He was a drug user in university. He's turned his life around and come into elite sport. What makes us think he's not going to be using drugs now? And I wonder how much of his sort of his anti-drugs, anti-anything stance comes from sort of, he just wanted to turn his life around and wanted it to be different now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I can't really speak for Lionel, but I think that I can speak on what I've seen and also publicly what he has kind of announced and professed. I think at the end of the day, and then I can't speak for everyone in the triathlon field, but from the athletes that I know, I don't know if there was many athletes that were that close to a near-death experience as Lionel was. I mean, when you hit rock bottom in life, whether it's divorce or whatever it is, but when you come to a point where you're like, I have accepted it and I'm going to kill myself, I'm going to commit suicide. I think that you are at a rock bottom as far as drugs and kind of everything. And so I think that when you watch Lionel, he knows, and I think that's something that he's hit that rock bottom in the past, and just watching him, there is nothing else that he cares about other than training and racing. I mean, nothing else that he cares about. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's other sports. It doesn't even matter if it's anything. I mean, that guy, all he wants to do is sleep, recover, and train so he can be the best he can freaking be on race day. And it's like you see all these other athletes and it's kind of like, oh yeah, we'll go ride at 9:00 and we'll go get coffee on the ride and all that. And then you have like Lionel, and it's just like, he just nothing but listens to his body. And so, and not only that, I mean, he just so well respects his body as well. I mean, he's even said it before in a video, he would love to be vegan. He wants to be vegan, but he said that when he attempted to do it last year, he wasn't very well educated, and it ended up hurting him in the long run. He said that he just, in his body right now, he said he feels he needs meat, but he said once he is done with his professional career, he definitely wants to be a vegan, because he said his body feels so much better like that. And so he is someone who watches every single thing he even puts into his body nowadays, because he knows that it's a temple and he knows that you can destroy it.
I really root for that guy. I really love him. I think so many people do, because he almost represents that everyman story of almost having stumbled into the sport and discovering genetic gifts at it and discovering this ability to just pound himself day after day. Just the hard work is bringing him rewards in this sport. And I don't know about you, man, I was heartbroken when he got caught on the Queen K. When Patrick Lang came up on him, I was like, no, let him win. I'd have loved to, and I still would love to see that. I would still love to see Lionel. That would represent to me like the ultimate story of someone who's come from, as you said, the edge of suicide all the way to the very pinnacle of professional sport. Yeah. I think that would be such a fantastic story.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's kind of like, I was talking with someone about this recently. you watch the Ironman NBC broadcast, and Ironman does such an incredible job at producing that thing. And you see these stories on there, these motivational stories, which one of those motivational stories has led to thousands of people entering the sport, wanting to cross that line, wanting to be a classman of Ironman. And not only that, but Lionel Sanders himself. I mean, he was at rock bottom, I think, in rehab, and he saw the Ironman triathlon, and he's like, I want to race an Ironman. And I think that there's so many people in this world that's probably why they're here today, because they probably saw that race at some point. And it's so cool to see someone like Lionel, who, if anyone is listening to this podcast right now, look at it like this. He was behind you. So like if you finished a triathlon at one point in Lionel's life before he started triathlon, he was behind you. I mean, he was addicted to drugs and couldn't even probably make it through a 5-minute workout. And so it's incredible to see someone go from who, if there was an average starting line of the average human, he was so far behind that from alcohol and drugs and all that, to where he is literally on the second step of the podium. When you have all these other athletes, I would say Jan Frodeno's win this year in Kona was the greatest performance in triathlon in history. But you take someone like Jan, and he has been involved in professional sport since the guy could walk. So that's why you have a performance like that. But if you were ever to get someone like Jan like Lionel to win that race, and I might be a bit biased, but I think that would be the greatest win in all time of triathlon, to see someone that was just like us, that was a normal human just like us, that just was an age grouper at one point, to basically be more behind an age grouper, and to win that race would be, I mean, I think it would not only be great as an incredible story, but it'd be incredible for the sport as well.
It's like Rocky, isn't it? It's like the Rocky story. It'd make a great movie, actually, wouldn't it? Thinking about it. Maybe you're the man to make it.
Well, that's the goal. I don't know if anyone has seen the Conor McGregor documentary, but I think that's something that we envision. And it's one of the reasons why Lionel brought me on last year is he wants to inspire and motivate people. And so we have shot in the mindset that we want to shoot a documentary over him one day winning the greatest race on earth, which is the Ironman World Championship. And so we just started, and there's a lot of stuff we put in the holster and we're saving for a documentary one day. But ultimately, a lot of people don't understand that we're producing these YouTube videos because we have all this content. We just want to at least show people it. And so hopefully one day we'll be able to put it all together in an incredible documentary and produce it to people to help inspire people for healthy living and racing and all that.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. Well, you heard it here first, everyone. That's I look forward to that one, Talbot, for sure.
For sure.
All right, listen, let me ask you about Rinny then. We've talked a lot about Tim. Obviously, Rinny didn't have the race that we wanted and the race that she wanted and hoped for this year. And you mentioned before something that's really interesting. You put her on the same sort of level as Lionel in terms of put me in a room and let me train on my own and let me hurt myself. Tell us a little bit more about that.
For sure. It's Rinny is a person who she can just bury her head and go to another level. And she's a lot quieter than Lionel, of course. Lionel is he likes to yell and he likes to scream and stuff. And I think people have seen that in his videos. He's very vocal about it. But Rinny is a person of just hard work and determination. She comes from a bunch of brothers and sisters on a kind of an Australian farm, and just hard knuckle, just like tough girl, tough tomboy almost, And so it's pretty incredible to watch her, because she'll go from holding little baby Izzy and kissing her on the head and being a good mom to on to the trainer 30 minutes later, and she's finishing her warm up. And then it's just like bury her head and just have that death look in her eyes that she's just crushing these high intensity intervals. And she knows what it takes to be at the top. And I think that's the most unfortunate thing this year is if you were to ask me 2 days before she fell and broke her arm, I mean, last year, I wouldn't have guessed that she would have got on the podium in Kona. Well, I mean, she worked really hard, but this year I was like, wow. I mean, and of course I vocally don't say this because what the athletes do behind like their training and stuff. I mean, it'd be wrong of me to let other athletes know or publicly say this, but And then now we're past Kona, but I was like, wow, she's going to give Daniela and Lucy a run for their money. I mean, there's no one who's going to beat Rinny in Kona this year. I mean, it's going to be a bloodbath to beat this girl. I mean, she was stronger than ever. She was swimming better than ever. She was biking better than ever. And she was just on fire, nailing her run workouts. And then just the stupid little slip up of her falling and breaking her arm. And it was just like, of course, you know how the story unfolds after that. I mean, it basically just, she tried to overcompensate to recover that arm for Kona. And then it just gave her all these back spasms and all that. And it was just so unfortunate, especially with this year being the year that it was, because if you look at someone like Anna Hug, her and Rinny are almost the same person. They race in Kona the same. I mean, they're both, Rinny is an incredible biker now. I mean, she's just killing it on the bike. She would have slammed in that second pack, would have biked all the way to the front or towards the front, and then just ran away with it. And it would have been incredible to watch her and Anna Hug race together.
That would have been
an
amazing shoulder to shoulder race with the two of them, wouldn't it? Yeah, you're dead right. Actually, that would have been a battle for the ages.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and of course, I mean, that's Kona though. You to win the race, you got to make it to the start line. And so it's just so unfortunate. That's what all these you learn as the years go by. And so it's not if she would or who could have, would have, should have. It's, I mean, you got to make it to that start line, but I'm telling you right now, Rinny will definitely be one to watch next year. I think she is motivated more than ever. And I know people just say this and they think that she's a has-been. But with her new recent changes, she just actually announced that she and her coach have decided to part ways with Siri Lindley, who Siri is battling a battle that if anyone's listening, you should definitely keep her in your prayers. She just got diagnosed with leukemia, I think, which is just a terrible thing.
Oh,
I could be wrong on but
that.
she had just been diagnosed with cancer. And so just a rough thing. So while she battles that, which I know Siri, and she's the biggest fighter on earth. So I truly believe if anyone could beat cancer, it's that girl. So that will be another incredible story in itself. But to point back to Rinny, they've decided to, during this time and trial, to part ways. And I think Rinny right now is probably going to announce her new coach soon. So it will be the step that I think that Rinny needs. And that will be adding science back to her sport, because Rinny was towards the end of winning the Ironman World Championship on just hard work, which you can't win that race anymore on hard work. You have to win that race now on science and aero testing and all that. And her new coach that she's going to announce soon is one of those people who is dove deep into science and data and kind of all that. So I think that Rinny will be at her A game next year for sure.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. Wow. I'm so sad to hear that about Sue Lindley. That's really tragic.
Terrible. Hey, so she's a fighter, and if you go to her Instagram and you look at her right now, I mean, she won't even shed a tear about it, because she's like, oh, I know I'm going to beat this. Like this is nothing but a blessing. Such a blessing in her life. And I'm like, wow, Siri, you motivate me.
Wow.
So for sure.
All right. So let's lighten this up a little bit. There's only one man we can talk about here to lighten this up after that sad news. Let's talk about Cam Worth. Your video on Cam Worth with him swimming with his dog was the funniest thing that I've seen this year, I think, man. And for people who haven't seen it, you had him swim lengths underwater with his dog chasing him around and scratched his back up pretty good, didn't he, a few days before the race?
Yeah, got some blood, hey.
Yeah, the dog really did him a good one. And then here's the funny thing. It was, sit down, one word answer. I'm going to give you athletes' names. Give me one word that pops into your head with them. That was just inspired, mate. I've never laughed so hard.
Oh, man. You know, Cam is a person in himself. I had actually never met Cam until the day we were recording, and I showed up at his house. And I'll point back to how the Kona Series just started real quick. Back in 2017, like I said earlier, when I had returned to Kona, I had worked out a deal with Garneau to make 3 videos over Lionel. And so I didn't even have a plan to do the Kona Series. I mean, I had just always been a fan of Bob Babbitt, and I needed to make these basically 3 day in the lives of Lionel Sanders. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Like, I pitched the idea to him, and now I'm here in Kona, so I need to figure out what I'm going to do. So I reached out to Luke McKenzie, who wasn't racing that year. And I was like, hey, you're launching your new Wind Republic company. Can we can I just make a video of you real quick? Like just to test this out. So I did Luke and then I did Lionel. And then I was like, well, I mean, I shot everything. I edited that today. And then somehow someone got me hooked up with Lucy. And it was Lucy's kind of first year back in Kona. And I was like, well, I guess I can do Lucy. And then I was getting all these DMs and it was like, who's next? And I'm like, well, hell, I don't know. And then Patrick Lang messages me and he's like, hey, I want to do one of those videos. Oh. So that's how the Kona series kind of like started. And then it just flew from there. And then of course the next year, it just, I mean, you try to get a schedule, but still Kona's just crazy. And so for fast forward like to this year, it's like, I sent out this great invitation. I was like, this year I'm going to be more organized than ever. I'd planned everything going into it. I had Cam Worth on there. I sent Cam Worth an invitation and it said he had seen it, but he never filled out the invitation. And I'm like, he's going to do it. So I DM Cam and I'm like, about 2 weeks before Kona, I'm like, hey, can we record an episode? And he just sends back a middle finger and says, piss off. And I'm like, well, I guess we're not doing it. And so of course I don't really care because I'm trying to pump out Daniela's content. I'm trying to get Patrick Lang. I'm trying to do all these things. And then all of a sudden I'm supposed to shoot Sarah True. And long story, she had to back out. And it was just like, I'm like, well, tomorrow is supposed to be my cam day. Crap. I hadn't even communicated with him. I mean, I just assumed that he was going to do it kind of like everyone else. And I text Cam again. I'm like, hey, seriously, can we record this video? And he's like, didn't I tell you to off? And I was like, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. And then so I think I had messaged someone else and I'm like, man, does Cam really not like me? Like, I don't know, like, did I ever offend you on something or anything like that? And then Cam said, what do you want? Like, I'm riding tomorrow. What do you want? And I'm like, dude, you just do your thing and I'm going to follow you. And all he did was send me an address and said 10 a.m.
Awesome.
So I roll up and Cam is one of the nicest guys I've ever met. I mean, it's so funny because a lot of people think he's just this mean, big bad bear, but he is just one of the funniest, most genuine guys I think you could ever meet in your life. And it is just, he is like a comedian. Like he needs his own like late night talk show. I mean, the guy is just what he is off the camera. He is on the camera. I mean, he gives me so much crap. Even about other photographers. He's like, triathlon Taryn would whip your ass in a race any day of the week. I mean, he feeds me just as much as he feeds Lionel and everyone else. And so, I mean, I kind of had that idea at the back of my mind to do that, the little postcard thing and show him people. So we of course did that, but then I still needed some footage of swimming footage because this year I tried to get swim, bike and run of all the athletes and he only bike and ran that day. And I'm like, I text the Cam and I'm like, hey man, I still need to get some swimming stuff. And he's like, all right, mate, I'm about to do a hard swim workout. Just come over to the house. And I'm like, can I in like 30 minutes? And he's like, yeah, sounds good. I go over there and I'm like, where are we swimming at? He's like, right here in the pool. And I'm like, all right. And that's when he was like, watch, I swim with my dog. And he just started rambling on the camera and stuff. And I mean, the guy is just pure class and pure gold. He's hilarious and he's exactly what we need for this sport. I mean, it's like some of these athletes get so monotoned and wrapped up in themselves and stuff. And at the end of the day, it's like, you got to have fun. And I think he definitely spices it up.
It seems like he kind of goes back to the days of like how Chris McCormack used to not like troll the competition exactly, but well, maybe that's the word. Yeah, he'd get in people's faces and, you know, he chased, who am I thinking of? Who was it? Faris.
Faris, yeah.
Yeah, he chased Faris around the world for the whole year, didn't he? Turning up at all the races he was going to do. And the Cam seems to do that in a funny way, in a way that, I don't know, like reading between the lines, it looks like him and Lionel are quite fond of each other in a strange kind of way, that they kind of enjoy the back and forth of that. And I think it's really good for the sport.
Yeah, it is. It's fine, kind of a funny competition because Lionel would bark back a little bit. And then I think Lionel just got to the point where he was almost annoyed. And then he just wanted to like let Cam have it in Kona. And then all of a sudden Cam shows up at Lionel's thing at his Wahoo thing. I don't know if you saw that, but
yeah.
Lionel did this booth appearance with Wahoo, and then Cam showed up to the booth appearance and was just giving Lionel crap. And it's a mental thing. I mean, it literally is. I mean, he just wants to get right in Lionel's head before race day and just let you know, hey, look, you're here, you are working, I'm standing next to you laughing at you with everyone. And so it's kind of funny because you don't know the line. I mean, I still don't. I'm great friends with Lionel, and I've asked him, like, you would like Cam a lot, and he's like, yeah, I'm sure I would. I bet when I retire, him and I will have some fun playing golf. But it's just like, but then you don't really know because Lionel kind of doesn't say anything, and then Cam just shoots crap all day and makes fun of him. So you're kind of like, is there some beef or is there not? And so that's like the funniest part about it is even though, so they'll take shots at each other, and Lionel's kind of backed off on his shots because I think Lionel's a person who just wants to focus on those results before you open your mouth a bit more. But Cam is just, he lets Lionel have it, and it's awesome. I mean, it's pure gold. I love it. So sometimes I try to pry questions out of Lionel to have him ag on the battle, and something that Lionel was like, it was actually my idea to add these little cameos. So anytime Lionel cusses or flips the bird at the camera at me, I always just blur it out, and then I put a cameo of Cam Wharf in there. And so people have just taken that, and it's just added a little fuel to the fire. So that's been a lot of fun too.
Nice. All right, some other things that you shot out in Kona this year. I was really interested in, firstly, you were over in Maui for a while shooting Sebi Kienle, and Joe Skipper was over there training together. And it looked like they were doing some amazing run workouts that you filmed.
Yeah, it's just even setting up for Kona is like that project is so big. And, last year I looked at my friend Preston Coons, who like, I couldn't even put that series together if it wasn't for Preston. I mean, I did it alone in 17 and 18. Preston came on and helped me. And this year it was just like, in 2018, I said, I don't know if I could top this, and I don't know if I could do it. And then this year I told Preston at the end of the series, I said, I don't know if I could do this again. Like, it takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot out of you. I mean, and I told Preston, I said, hey, I'm on the fence about it doing it next year because it is stressful. I mean, it's a month long of no sleep, and you are literally shooting all day long, and you're editing all night, and you're finishing and uploading at about 1 a.m. and then you push it. And then it's like, then you're up at 6 a.m. doing it again. And so a lot of I kind of turn into a robot in Kona. I don't really focus as much. As kind of like the whole thing with Cam. Like I never really communicate with the athletes much. And to be honest with you, I don't even know what they're doing half the time. I'm just trying to get the shot because I'm so much in my element of trying to capture the content of what they're doing. And so I try to be a combination of an athlete liaison and helping them out, as well as just capturing the content that's needed. And so this year I started a bit earlier. I started about 3.5 weeks out from the race, and I actually went down to the Woodlands, Texas, and started following Patrick Lang when he was in the Woodlands. And then I went out to Kansas and shot Tim and Rinny. And then I went to, like you said, to Maui, and they're all doing such insane, crazy workouts at that time. And that's why the Kona Series really dies down race week, and we're pretty much done going into race week. I mean, my job there is pretty much done at that point because none of the athletes do any hard work anymore. I mean, it's like the work's done. You're just finishing up your little reps and stuff. And so there's a lot of planning that goes into it. And so I think that the most interesting thing with Sebi is, like he had said, I'm sure in just like you said, the videos, he got a new coach, and they're doing so many crazy things to make him the best athlete he can be. And shooting him there running with Skipper. Skipper had just finished just got off the plane, I think like 3 hours before that workout, and ran half of it with him. And then it was like, oh, pissed off. I'm about to die. So
of course he had.
It's crazy.
Love that kid.
Exactly. And then I felt bad too, because at the finish of that workout, Skipper comes walking up and he's like, well, what you got going on the rest of the week? And I'm like, I got this and this, 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 and this, and this. And he's like, well, and he never asked, but he clearly wanted to do a video. And I totally want to do a video with Joe. Joe's one of the most interesting athletes, and it's hard to pick the athletes.
Yeah.
You don't know who's going to do their best. And then two, this is where for the first time, even this year, I kind of found out like why media is so biased, because I found myself being so biased myself. And it's kind of like you do. I mean, it's like at the end of the day, we're all trying to make entertaining entertainment for people to watch. And so I get so many like hate messages every year from age groupers being like, you should go cover the age groupers, or go cover this age grouper. He has such an incredible story. It's going to get way more views than anyone else. And I'm like, guys, I've put together all these numbers, and I promise you, I would love to do it. But the only way that I can walk out of Kona and make money and make it to where, and it's kind of like I had said in the previous podcasts, is in 2017, Kona cost me 10 grand. Like I lost 10 grand.
Really?
And then last year in Kona, I lost 5 grand. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so close. I'm on a path. And then this year I walked away. I went to Kona and I was like, screw this. I'm not getting anyone to sponsor the series. I'm so tired of listening to the corporate bull crap of you're not worth this and you need to do this for our company and blah, 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 blah. And I was so tired of listening to all these stupid companies. And I was like, screw this. I'm doing this for myself. The only reason I even do this is because people, the fans, watch these videos. And so everyone can piss off, but my actual real supporters, which are the fans. And so that's literally why this year my Kona Series was sponsored by the fans. And I let them choose who the athletes were in prior polls going into the event last year. And then this year I was so excited after I actually got to pay out my employees this year, which is absolutely amazing feeling because they've all done it just off of hard work and they love it. And they're fans too. I also got to pay all them. And then also I got to walk away with 10 grand myself, which like just makes me over the moon. I'm still 5 grand shy from where I started 2 years ago from Kona, but I think that I'm on the right path. And then to point back to that, a lot of the money that I make is from YouTube on that, and the views I get during race week. And so that's why back to where I was saying is being biased is it's hard to pick these athletes because I want to pick someone like Anna Hug, who is like, I mean, she's so interesting, but I mean, if she ever listens to this, I'm sorry. And I mean, I've only heard her say like 3 words in her entire life, and she's definitely an interesting person. And then you have people like Cam Worth, who isn't really necessarily a podium contender, but I mean, he has the most views almost out of every video. And so it's biased, but I just want to be able to create content around the most interesting people going into Kona, if that makes sense.
It's really interesting that you managed to make more money when you were entirely supported by, like patronage of the people who watch your videos and buy your merchandise and posters and photographs and things afterwards. That's interesting to me that it's almost you've been freed of, like, you're free to make the stuff that you want to make for the creative reasons, and people obviously respond to that by enjoying it and watching it and sharing it more.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. And to be honest with you, a lot of people are like, dude, like, were you scared making that jump? And I wasn't scared one bit. Like I told some of my life coaches like what I was doing, and they're kind of like, what do you if you walk away negative 20 grand? And I didn't doubt one bit. I mean, there was never a point where I was like, man, this is pretty risky, because the followers, the people that listen to this podcast, the people that follow me and follow Lionel and follow all them, I know how supportive they are. And it didn't surprise me one bit, the fact that I was going to sell t-shirts and sell that many posters and get that many views, because I know how incredible these people are. And so when I went to the drawing board and I drew up my plan, when it was like, all right, do I go get a corporate sponsor that actually does care about me? Or do I go get these people that have supported me this entire time, and they're the ones who I'm producing the content for? Do I get like I said, a corporate sponsor who just wants to show off their product? And there was nothing more genuine than the fans supporting the work that I had produced for them. So it was just such a blessing. I was unbelievably grateful. This sport has completely changed my life. I mean, I took all 10,000 of that dollars and I invested 110% of it back into my company. I mean, I bought a new lens, and then I also just purchased a brand new MacBook Pro. And then I also built this beast of a PC that I can render out 4K videos and basically be my server to where I can pull my footage from anywhere I'm at in the world to. So, I mean, it didn't surprise me one bit. This sport is incredible. The people are incredible. And I've never been involved in anywhere else that people and fans have been like this and treated people like this. I mean, it's awesome. And that's why I continue to come back. That's why I thrive in it.
I love that you spent all the money already. I love it that you spent on more toys to edit videos faster.
I like to say I'm like Amazon. I don't know if people follow Amazon closely. Amazon has never, at the end of the month, finished the month with a profit because they invest 100% of their profit back into their company. So I tell that to a few of my life coaches. They don't really like that too much that I do that. But I mean, I just want to be able to continue to produce at a rapid rate stuff to keep people entertained, stuff to keep people motivated, to keep people driven and just hungry for more. So I love it.
Do you, perhaps circling back around to the idea of a documentary with Lionel or who knows, other people as well, do you think there could be like a long-term, I don't want to use the word payoff, but like a long-term, you've got all these great 10-minute videos at the moment, but that would be awesome, wouldn't it? To have something that you've created be a feature-length documentary or several feature-length documentaries, because triathlon and Ironman's blown up so much, there'd definitely be a market there for it.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. In a perfect world, it would be a 3-athlete documentary. And too bad Tim didn't win Kona this year, but it would be Tim and Rinny winning Kona again, Lionel winning Kona, and then also Gwen Jorgensen going from mother to Olympics. I mean, it's like you have 3 of arguably some of the greatest athletes, or top 10 greatest athletes to ever do endurance sports. And you have, firsthand in front of you, the content of all these athletes. So whether it's NBC purchasing footage from me of Gwen's entire lead up and getting pregnant and having the baby Stanley and her lead all the way into the Tokyo Games to hopefully even after that, the Paris Marathon, because she just announced that she's going to the 5 and 10K instead of the marathon. You're exactly right. I mean, ideally your goal would be to get all this footage, sell it in a package, or be the director of a package and build an incredible documentary with 3 athletes following them, or just 1 athlete, and sell it to someone like Netflix, and really just be able to sit down and show off to all my brothers and sisters how much better I am than they are, and show them my work on Netflix. So that's ultimately the goal. Ultimately the goal.
It's all about getting one over on your brothers and sisters, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, that's the entire point. So that would definitely be a dream.
You're one of 8, is that right?
Yes. Well, I come from a very large family here in Oklahoma City. We are not Mormon, not Catholic. We are just Christians. And there's one of 8. I'm one of 8, all from the same mom and dad. No twins, no adoptions.
Wow.
Just parents got married when they were 19 and 20. And we are about 1.5 years apart from each other, stair steps all the way down. And my family is like everything to me. I mean, they're the ones that push me. It's so incredible to see kind of where we're all at now. Our parents basically, when we turned 18 years old, kicked us out the door and is like, hey, you got to make it on your own. Because, the cool thing is they trained us up to get to that point. I mean, they didn't give us really $1 for anything. I mean, when I started my first lawn mowing business, when I was 15 years old, pushing a mower down the street, I mean, my dad was like, well, I can give you a ride up to the bank to get a loan out, but I'm definitely not paying for your mower. And it's so cool to see that they did that. I mean, I ended up getting a loan at the bank, and I'm pretty sure I put my bicycle as a collateral, and I was able to get enough money to buy a lawnmower, which ultimately led to me buying a mowing truck, which eventually turned in, fixed up the truck, sold the truck, and then just kept repeating that, and eventually got to like the truck that I have now. And then, I mean, they wouldn't pay for our school. They wouldn't pay for almost anything. And the reason being is they didn't have theirs paid for. And so they wanted to teach us that you don't need to rely on your parents. You can rely on yourself. And I think that it's so cool to see the testament to all my brothers and sisters is we have all turned into these little entrepreneurs who are all extremely blessed and fortunate to be in the positions where we are now. And and I'm so blessed to have my parents that taught me what hard work was, what ethics were, what morals were and standards and all that. And so it's been definitely cool to see that, and then been able to really build my business around that, because at the end of the day, if I didn't know what hard work was from watching my older brothers and watching my father, one of the hardest workers I've ever met in my entire life, I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at today without them.
They taught you to hustle and be an entrepreneur for sure. Hey, it's I've got to hand it to you, man. You've turned yourself into your own little industry. I'm really impressed by it. There's a little part of me that looks at what you've done here and goes, wow, this is absolutely brilliant. I'm sitting here right now as we're talking. I'm looking at the posters you've got for sale, and I'm thinking a couple of these look pretty good on my wall, so I might nip along later on and get a couple of Kona posters for my pain cave. Help a brother out.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, it's funny. There's this guy I really look up to. His name's Gary Vaynerchuk.
Gary V.
Gary V is a super motivational guy, but he had this quote on there not that long ago. So there's a few of the photographers in the industry, of course, don't like me because I'm a hustler. I'm a hard worker, I guess. But it's funny. There's one of them. His name's Glenn Murray, Corrupt Vision. I mean, the guy just like hates me. I don't even know why. I mean, I've always just been to him, but it's so funny because he goes around and he tells people that I'm a trust fund kid. And I'm like, man, I don't know if that's a compliment, if I've ever heard one. If you're doing well enough where someone calls you a trust fund kid, then you must have, I guess, done something in the industry to make enough money to work and make it look like that you're a trust fund kid. So I joke about that with a lot of my clients today, because they like fly me places. And then I just try to find a way. I mean, it's very easy to be smart and work your way in the door and do something. And so anyone can make $1. It's just the fact you just got to get off your butt and you got to do it. And it's kind of like someone commented on my thing the other day, on a post of mine the other day, and they're like, it's very hard as a female photographer to get involved in the endurance triathlon industry. I feel that people are a bit biased. And I'm sitting out there scratching my head, and I'm like, is it that you're calling yourself a victim, or is it that you just don't have the hard work skills? And no offense, I don't know like her story or background or anything, but it kind of made me laugh, because one of the reasons, if you point all the way back to the very beginning of this podcast, I said one of the photographers I inspired to be was Litz Cruz, who was Lance Armstrong's personal photographer, and it was a female. And she was one of the most renowned photographers in the entire cycling industry. I mean, she covered every single tour that Lance was in. She's from Austin, Texas. And so it's like, if you want something bad enough, you're going to go get it, and you're going to hustle to make it happen. And so it's kind of like what I had said earlier. I mean, I had no business being in Kona in 2016. I didn't even know how to work a freaking camera, but I got myself there. I got enough money to pay for my freaking hotel. And it's like, you just got to hustle. I mean, that contract from Hotshot was $1,000 contract, and I had to give them like 4 images every day. And so it was for like 7 days, 4 to 5 images every day for Instagram, because they wanted to post it, and then 4 rights to those images. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to make it to Kona and pay for a hotel and food for $1,000. So I called freaking in direct messages about 50 other Instagram accounts being like, hey, what do you need? Let me get you stuff. And so, of course, people are always looking to buy something. And so you just got to have that hard work and hustle mentality, whether it's in triathlon, whether it's in life, and you have to enjoy what you're doing, because at the end of the day, if you don't enjoy it, then you're never going to want to work harder at it. And so I think that that's why I never want to stop, because I just want to, I mean, I love this. I mean, it's Friday nights, my friends are out at the pub or whatever. And, you know, I'm editing because it's what I enjoy doing. And this is what I have passion about. There's so many weekends that I've spent with clients during hotels that while everyone else is out partying. I mean, this is my party, sitting behind my computer, editing something, sitting there with my clients, talking, having fun, going to a race, waking up with pre-race jitters on Sunday morning when I'm not even racing. That is what I enjoy. That's what I have passion about.
All right, man. Well, I'll tell you what, your passion comes across in the way you speak about this, and it definitely comes across in the videos and the posters and stuff. So I think that's a pretty good place to wrap it up. So listen, let's give you a little plug here to finish on. talbotcox.com. We can get ourselves all manner of cool stuff. We've got all the posters from Kona. There's some very natty Christmas jumpers as well going on there. Talbot, I hope that.
Yeah, there is. Hey. There's even a Cam Worth Pack Rat one just for Cam.
Love it. So that's talbotcox.com. Have you got anything else you want to mention to the listeners where they can go and check out your work?
I think that's it. As long as you can catch everything on there. If you just follow me on Instagram, I usually post wherever I'm at on the world on that on my Instagram. Or be sure to follow Lionel Sanders, Tim and Rinny, and Gwen Jorgensen. So
nice.
Yeah. And then if you got sent to this podcast from my channels, make sure that you follow Rob as well.
That's very kind of you. What a nice guy.
and then too, Rob has some awesome podcasts from Lucy to everyone in the industry. So they're all different.
Oh, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Hey, well, listen, I'll put links to all those bits and bobs in the show notes so people can find the various channels you've got on your shop. And listen, man, it's been great having you on the show, and it's been super interesting to get a lot of your inside scoop on the athletes. So thanks very much for your time.
Hey, no worries. Thank you so much.
Well, something completely different there, I think, from the usual interviews with pro athletes, but super interesting guy. Loads of inside scoop and inside stories there. And watch out in the new year for interviews with possibly some of the people who've been mentioned just gone by in that interview there. So, things to watch out for. All right, I'd encourage you to get over to Talbot's website and check it out. It's talbotcox.com. He's got some really good photographs available. So I think I mentioned in the interview, one of my athletes has got a great big picture of Lionel up on his wall in his pain cave. He's got loads of really cool photos of athletes and of scenery shots from Hawaii, the Queen K. Really great photography. It makes really, I think, really nice artwork for the walls. So get over there and check it out. All right, then, that just about brings us to the end of this episode. I've obviously published it a little bit early so we can get it in before the Christmas rush. Next week is going to be being published as usual on Wednesday. It's going to be New Year's Day early edition being published. And I've got a special edition for you. I've been trailing this for a few weeks. It's a medical special with a gentleman called Dr. Anton Krieger, who has helped me out tremendously in analysing blood test results I've had and has really been instrumental in getting my health back on track. So I've got him on for a 1 hour special, firstly to talk about diet and the things that we can do and the things that we can eat that will really support us in our training. Anton's a multiple-time Ironman, going back 20 years or so. He's a doctor who really understands the demands of endurance sport and also arguably the madness that we all suffer from mentally to make us do it as well. So he understands the different levels of fueling that we're going to need, and he's got some great advice there. Some great advice around going plant-based if you want to go plant-based or completely vegan, some vitamins and minerals and things that you really, really need to take care of. But it was just a really interesting interview with him on all levels. So watch out for that coming on New Year's Day. That'll hopefully give everyone a big kick to really take care of, even if it's a small thing like supplementing with the right kind of vitamins this year to get your health and performance completely on track. All right, so let's wrap this up. Thanks to our sponsors, precisionhydration.com. Remember, free box or tube worth up to $9.99 with the code OxygenAddict. And if you're looking for triathlon coaching, head on over to teamoxygenaddict.com. We're going to have some special offers running in January, so get over there and have a look at what we do. There's loads of free resources to help you out with your training. Keep yourself moving over the Christmas and New Year period. And just remember, there's links in the show notes for all of our sponsors, so you don't have to remember them. So until next week, everybody, I hope you've had a fantastic 2019. I know that I have. I hope you have a fantastic 2020. Oh, can you hear the dog in the background there? Hello, Ruby. You want to say hello to the audience? Say woof. Little lick on the microphone there. Get down, girl. There you go. Ruby the cockapoo saying hello there for the end of 2019. Thanks very much for listening to the show over this year, and coming into 2020, I've got some really big names lined up for you all. So watch this space. So until next week, have a great, safe training and racing week. I am Coach Rob Wilby, and you've been listening to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. Happy 2019, everybody. Have a great Christmas, and I will see you all in 2020. See ya.